to Queering Theology and Philosophy. We are here discussing theological and philosophical subjects. I used to have another channel whereby it was purely philosophy, but because of my academic history, I didn't want to throw away my theological learning and so decided to also include theology in the same. Now, why did I decide to do that? I view theology as a type of philosophy. It is it's a religious philosophy, and though I'm going to do another video, but not today, that differentiates between theology, and philosophy, the love of wisdom, Sophia, and then and then theologos is the study of God. So I've noticed something that logos sounds to be very masculine, and it has to do with the left hand side of the brain. Study, rational study. So theology is a rational study of God, but philosophy is the love of wisdom. It's not necessarily a study. It is a love. You want to listen to things and people's views, and then from listening to all of those views you come up with a conclusion. And it's not necessarily a study, it's like a form of study. And so I would put Sophia to mean the feminine side of the brain, that is the right hand side of the brain, so that when you combine logos and Sophia, you are a powerful person. Combining, see, the brain is not, it's in one head, meaning Logos and Sophia should work together. The masculine and the feminine should work together. And you see, it is in, I'm a man, a gay man, and my feminine side is with my masculine side. So that means, and a woman also has her masculine side and her feminine side and of the brain. So what does that mean? That we are carrying two sexes in us. As I've told you, the hormones we have are the same. I have male and female hormones, just like a woman has male and female hormones. And these hormones can vary in degree. I may have high levels of female hormones than a woman, and that woman can even have high male hormones than me. It's possible. So this is the science that we are encouraging religion to agree with and sit down and just accept, because science is going ahead. It's not going to stop for anybody. And the problem with that is that religion will be blamed in history, not now. Now people will think religion is so good, but in the future generations are going to blame those who are hanging on to religion that didn't embrace science. They will just laugh at people. I mean, we laugh at the medieval period where they were doing very crazy things like burning people at the stake. It's madness. It's ignorance of the highest order, because people are supposed to follow due process. When someone has committed a crime, you're to take them to the police, investigation is done. And if it's found that they are guilty, you go with the verdict of the court. Simple. Don't do other things that. So that's my view. And today we want to look at psychology, the psychological state of writers. And this includes theologians and philosophers. Now, you've got to understand, we are living in a time when we can study the psychological state of any commentator or any intellectual, even the mental health. You see, But in the past, they didn't have that mechanism. But they still had intellectuals and they had writers who were writing books, you know, but there was nobody to check their mental state or to question their mental state. So the problem of this is that I am bringing this idea that your psychological state can affect your your delivery of data or information or knowledge. For example, if you have a teacher that is well paid, living a good life, 80% that teacher will teach you very well and he will take time with you because he knows he's not worried about getting money to survive. But when you have a low paid teacher, they will do a rush job because their mind is not in class. It's like, I'm thinking of, I have to go and get money again to solve this thing. I have to do this. So their mind is very cluttered. Stress, bills are in the head. All you have to do. I remember watching a very nice movie, and I've forgotten the name. It's a very old movie, and it was about a lecturer who had a mental health problem. And this lecturer, when the problem became so much, he couldn't focus in class. And they would ask him questions, and he wasn't there. And so it took time. He had to go and see the psychiatrist, see the psychologist. And what I liked about it was that, wow, your mental health is really very important. It even affects how you do certain jobs. Of course, there are some jobs which don't require, you can even be stressed, but you can work and it doesn't really affect work. But mostly jobs that involve speaking and interaction with people, communicative professions, sometimes stress can affect you and how you deliver. Like when you're so, like let's say you've lost a loved one, and then on that day you're supposed to go and present a client in court. There's a way you may not be yourself, and if the judge is careful, they may notice that you're not delivering very well. You've lost your mind because your mind is focusing. You see, communicative professions require the mind, and there are no jobs like, when you're digging and doing other odd jobs, they require the mind, but in a low degree, not in a very high degree. But communicative jobs like being a newscaster, anything to do with speech, it involves your mind. So when your mind is sick or is in a bad shape, it will affect any profession that needs the mind, uses the mind. That's why you need to sleep well if you are in a communicative job, a job that where you appear. Can you imagine coming to the studio and you have bloodshot eyes and you're dozing, and oh my, everybody will know. That day they'll switch off the channel and you've lost viewers. So it's because it's a mind job. I mean, imagine you have a cameraman and he hasn't slept for days. He can collapse. I remember seeing that one time on TV. The camera fell down. So sorry. I know it should be not good to laugh, but anyway, it was just so funny how it fell. And it was said, and it was a lady. She was tired and she just dozed off and she lost control. So you see why it's a mind job, and you need to sleep. Thank you, Ariana Huffington, for the good book, Sleep Revolution. Yes, you need sleep so that your brain is active. Now, now this is so you see, these writers, I've been looking at religion and saying, but why did they write certain things? And how did they write them? They must have been in a psychological state. Even till today, any book you read, try and figure out their psychological state. Like Karl Marx. Karl Marx is the best, one of the, if you want to read his mind, read his work. And you could just see he was really fed up with what was happening in capitalist Europe. And he was very revolutionary and he wanted a change. And if you notice about Karl Marx, he never lived a rich life. He was poor. He died a poor man. But the revolution he caused, many countries are Marxist because of the price he paid and how he studied things. And why? Writing is a psychological function. It's a mental function. You write. The brain is involved in writing. So any written work in the world, just know a brain was involved in it. Even coding, it involves the brain. And even the Quran was written. There was a brain behind it. Even Hammurabi's code, there was a brain involved in it. And even the Bible. Now, when you look at the Bible, one of the best characters to study is Paul, because Paul wrote many types of letters. Some letters were written when he was in prison or house arrest, and these are called the prison letters. And then others were written when he was free. And I've noticed something about the prison letters Paul wrote. Paul, all the prison letters Paul wrote, they were written once and for all. There is no first letter to the Ephesians, second letter. No, no, no. He just wrote it once. The Ephesians, Colossians, I'm forgetting the other two, Philemon, and I'm forgetting the last one. Those are the prison letters. And because he wrote them under house arrest. Colossians also. They have no first. And so what does that mean? He was just writing out of, the speed, just to keep them, make sure the church stays in order and blah, 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 blah. And so and then if you notice, he used to even talk about, rejoicing in the Lord always, like the letter of Philippians. And you could see this was a suffering man. He was in jail and he was saying, but I'm rejoicing, I'm happy. So that was in psychology, there is what you call defense mechanisms. That was a defense mechanism. Keep yourself happy, even if things are bad, just be positive, which is not bad. It's sometimes good, but sometimes you also need to be real with yourself, because reality is reality. You see, that's why I am of the belief that psychology is also biological, because when you die, the mind also switches off. And even if you go to another world, like, okay, like when we sleep, why is it when we sleep we still dream? It's because there's a part of us that's not asleep. The brain doesn't sleep. That's why even in death, when you die, they don't say you can be brain dead, but you are still alive. You see, brain dead. Consciousness is being awake. And even when we sleep, it's not that we are dead. We are, there's some consciousness. That's what keeps us alive. And as long as the heart is beating, the brain, parts of the brain, not the whole brain, parts of it are working. That's why the subconscious works at that time. And then we have dreams, and which come from the frustrations and everything we've been collecting in the day. So This is just a short video. I'm just trying to whet your appetite that when you study religious writings, try and read the mind of the writer, the psychological state of the writer. As I've told you, Paul was a man, he wrote the letters when he was happy. And even if he said he was happy and he was in jail, sometimes it was not true. It was just a mechanism to hide the real feeling. He really felt bad. But he had to keep himself happy, because if he didn't, the Christian religion would have collapsed. Do you know, if the Christian leaders were very honest about the suffering they were going through as Christians, believe you me, Christianity would have the smallest. Even right now, Christianity is not what Paul was practicing. It's not. It's nowhere near. It's so different. Now it's very organized. They're even in control of very many things. They are rich. In the past, they were the poorest. Especially, they were always in prison. The leaders were being killed. They used to even they used to worship in the catacombs. Those were the tombs in Rome. They would go to the tomb. Why? They couldn't be found in there. In fact, Christianity was seen as a cult, dangerous cult. And some Roman emperors didn't want anybody to be a Christian. It is Constantine that saved Christianity. You see, we're going to even have another section called What If? What if Constantine never became Christian? There would be no Christianity today. Constantine saved Christianity by legalizing it. And when he legalized it, the Christian elite, who were now part of the government of Constantine, now controlled Constantine. And they told him, because he now said, wow, you guys are the leaders. Because I saw the cross when I was going to fight, and I said, and it said, with this sign, conquer. And then the Christian elite said, welcome, now be our friend. And they led him. And they made his mother, even made a cathedral for his mother in Turkey. And all of these, he was lost in Christianity. And so that is what happened. But what if Constantine didn't see that vision? What if? What if? Maybe Christianity wouldn't be there. Majority of you would be still worshipping Frida and worshipping Thor and worshipping Diana. Yes, in Europe. But because of Constantine, he made it possible for people to become Christian today, because he organized Christianity into Bible. So the Christianity and the Bible, all of that came from Constantine. Now, as I conclude, study the psychological state of a writer, a religious writer, even the Quran. You know, look at Muhammad. Muhammad, the prophet, was a militant man. He was a warrior. Paul was not a warrior. You see, so you don't really. In fact, Paul only talked about war spiritually, and he told people to wear the spiritual armor. He was so allegorical. He was not a physical man. Muhammad, where do you get the word spiritual warfare in the Quran? It's not there. It's not there. He was a warrior, and that's how he spread Islam with the sword. It's a fact. The surahs are there. Go and read. And so you see, you can know how a warrior writes. A warrior has, and a physical warrior, he writes war language, war talk. That's what they do. And so you can now know the psychological state of a military general writing religious texts, making people to know how to fight. Now, for Paul, as I told you, his psychological state was varied, because one time he was free, the other time he was sad. He was psychologically down. And that's why, like, the letter to the Ephesians, it's only one letter, and just wrote it, and he knew he was going to be executed, so it didn't take time. Of course, atheists don't believe Paul existed because there is no records about Paul. So, for the benefit of doubt, according to what is available for us, that's what we know. And um, and I respect atheists for that. Atheists require evidence. Give it to them. That's what I tell religious people to do. When an atheist asks for evidence, please give it to him. If you don't have, hold your peace. Do not kill an atheist. Yes, they have a right. They are looking for evidence, and you've not given it to them. Then also look at the psychological state of the Old Testament writers. You see, Jeremiah doesn't write like Isaiah, and neither does Moses write like Samuel. Why? Because their psychological state. Ezekiel was a priest. He was an elitist because priests were the elite in Israel, and he was a priest that went to exile. And so when you look at his dreams, when you study the dreams of Ezekiel, you will notice something. He was dreaming of the temple. Why? He was a servant of the temple. So his dreams were always about the temple. And his vision that God is going to make a new temple. Why? He was a priest. Isn't it beautiful to study the psychological state of the person, of a writer? Look at Daniel. All his dreams were about politics. Why? He was a politician. So he would always have dreams of Persia is going to fight this, and I see a king is going to fight this other king, and then he's going to control the whole world. When he was talking about the Antichrist, of which he even didn't call it Antichrist. He just saw a king whom people are now saying is the Antichrist. So, can you see? Daniel, because Daniel was a politician, his dreams were mostly political. Because Ezekiel was a priest, his dreams were mostly Templar. They were about the temple. And because Israel, northern Israel, went to exile before Judah, that is southern Israel, Jeremiah was always telling southern Israel, you are going to Babylon. You are going to Babylon. And Jeremiah, and that's what happened. The southern Israelis, that's the tribe of Benjamin, Levi, and Judah, they went to exile. Already, the Isaiah people went to exile. They went to Persia and Assyria. They went, and Mesopotamia. They went to exile, and Ezekiel was amongst. But no, Ezekiel was a Levite, who was a priest, and so he was in Babylon, if I can recall. Yeah, but Daniel was from the southern tribes. He was a Jude, most like he was a tribe of Judah, and so he went to Babylon, and that's where, when he stayed in politics. You see, what I'm trying to tell you is, look at the psychology. When you are in your office and you're always doing your office work, you will tend to dream your office things. When you are in the priest, you're always in the temple, you tend to dream that. Have you look at your dreams? Like my dreams, all the dreams I have, majority of them are where I have been before, and where I have interacted, and where I've put, and the interactions I've made with people. Of course, there are some certain dreams that are different. You can even be in a different place. You've never been to that place before. And that means you're imaginative. You're able to travel. I like a book that said, when you sleep, you travel. I agree with that. And you can travel. And believe me, I don't like traveling in my locality. No, I want to go far. Even I wish I could even travel to another planet. I want to go to Cassiomedia. It's very famous. And meet the life in Cassiomedia and the other galaxies. So that's all we can say about psychological state of the writer. I'm leaving that to you to do that study. Whatever book you read, even Martin Luther King's writings and speeches, look at his psychological state. Even Obama's speeches. When did Obama speak? And when you read, you can see he was sad. Or when was he happy or hopeful? So excited. Because nowadays, all of these leaders we have are human beings. And what is a human being? A human being is a psychological animal. A human being is a sexual animal, meaning he has a sexual orientation. There is nothing like erasure. You cannot erase sexuality. That people are now busy trying to erase LGBTQ people. No, you can't. A human being is a sexual being. Find out his sexual orientation. And when you find it out, let them live it out. A human being is a political animal. Just as he's a sexual animal, and just like he's a psychological animal. Find out his political leanings. A human being is an economic animal. He knows how to use money. Find out the economics of that animal. There are some people who like spending money, others don't like spending money, others like budgeting, others like impulse buying, others don't. Yes, because we are economic animals. A human being is a technical animal. Is an animal that uses tools. You see? Which animal have you seen uses a hammer? I mean, which animal? The apes try, the chimpanzees are also trying. Why? Because their lifestyle, they don't need to make anything to survive. I mean, birds, the reason why birds make nests is because they in their instinct is that they need a place to rest their eggs. You see? So they also have intelligence. And intelligence is diverse. And psychology is also diverse. So remember there's some books that are written with anger and others written like the sad thing about the Gospels, Jesus didn't write them. I wish Jesus could write. And it would be him writing what he said. Because these are people writing for him. And there are some they have written where he was insulting people. He was insulting the Pharisees. So those are the things we need to look at when it comes to psychology. The psychological state of the writer. And that applies to all books. But when it comes to the Hindu books in Hinduism and Buddhism, it's very hard to tell the psychological state because they are written very objectively. Yeah, very objectively. And if you read the psychological state of the Hindu texts, it's a lot about joy and happiness and no praise for this. Even the Egyptian Book of the Dead, there's a lot of joy involved in it. But when you read the Bible and a bit of the Quran, but the Bible mostly, the Quran somehow it's kind of balanced. The Bible, the prophets, very angry with people. Extremely angry with human beings. And actually the New Testament is better. It's kind of, you can swallow some bits. Yeah, some, not everything. But the Old Testament, there's of course the prophetic writings. It's because the prophets are critics. They are people who critique. They are always looking at the problems in society, and they want to rectify them. And so they tell of people, and so you can just read this. Someone so choleric, and of course Tim LaHaye wrote a book about the psychological personalities, which included also he kind of classified the prophets and gave them their personality types. Yeah. Okay, guys, thank you so much for listening. Let's do our homework. Let's When you read a book and you get an author, now I've given you a tip. Study his psychological state. And how do you know it? You know it by number one, where he lives, his age, his economic status, his environment. Because if you're living in America right now, the books you're going to write, 80% will reflect what is happening right now. The tensions, the race tensions, and the media tensions, they'll affect you. If you are not a careful writer, you may write in that tone and mode of what is happening that time. That's why every time I pick a book these days, I look at when it was written, and then I study the time, what was around the time, the environment. Then I see, okay, now no wonder this guy sounds so angry. Oh, no wonder he sounds so happy. I mean, if Tim Cook is to write a book right now, oh my, he'll be in joy of how he's achieved making Apple $1 trillion, a $1 trillion company. Can you imagine? The first company in the world to do that. So Tim Cook, if he's to write anything now, he's going to write with joy. Yes, because he's happy. So that's psychology. Okay, guys, thank you so much.